All the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies.
Good evening.
My hands up.
Good evening.
You didn't let me throw my hands up first. That I'm not single.
Knock yourself out. Got some time while we're just getting started and waiting for folks to join on. And if you don't know, welcome to another Thursday night edition of
Hey,
FYF the
Andrew.
show. What's going on, Pepsi? This is your host, Rob. This is my co-host, Toshiba. Together, we are FYF the show. We are here on Instagram and YouTube every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern Time. For those of you that are not aware, you can do the time and date adjustment for wherever you're located at because Arizona don't change our time. We just kind of fluctuate between Mountain and Pacific.
Pretty much.
Anyhow, welcome to those that have joined in already. We're just going to kind of putter along for a few moments and allow ourselves a little bit of a moment to try to pull into an audience. But we appreciate those that have already stopped in. If you're not able to join in live, of course, the video will hit YouTube. You can always catch it at your own leisure. Hit the like and subscribe button. It'll notify you when Toshiba uploads new videos.
Thank you, Toshiba uploads new videos. Thank you.
And we're trying to figure out how to put on a better Instagram show because Instagram is just difficult quite frequently, especially when you're trying to have guests or have more than one feed go into it. Anyhow, this week we're talking about. We don't really have a specific.
No, we do. Anyways, we're talking about sports, and this is your topic. So how do we not have a I would made a promo in the back. Yeah. I did all kinds of promo stuff. Look at all that sports stuff.
But it's not a nail. We normally would be like focused on a particular topic. This is just kind of abstract. Sports dating, as those of you that don't know, next week Phoenix is hosting the Super Bowl. We will have the Super Bowl in our town. We're trying to figure out how we're going to take advantage of that and kind of give you guys some glimpses at what's going on. We'd love to sit on here in front like we're just going to be hobnobbing with the resorts and the celebrities, but we're not.
Or we won't be.
Almost every event she sent me information on. If she wasn't already like, look at the ticket prices, I was definitely like,
yeah, we weren't. It wasn't now.
And that's to be expected, you know. If a place normally charges $40 to get in, they're charging $400 to get in next week.
Right.
That's how,
even our brunch place, is charging $75 a person. I do. You also like going to brunch there. You know, Sugar Jam.
They're charging what?
$75 a person. You made me say the people's name. I was just trying to say brunch place, so I didn't have to air the people out. But they're charging $75 a person. They're doing a menu or something? They're doing a buffet brunch though. They're saying they're doing a buffet and showing the game and having other games. I don't know what kind of games you're having, but I looked it up today. And your reservation is your thing, so we'd be paying $150 for both of us.
That's not terrible, but knowing good and well that
we usually
$5 for $20, something that would normally be like 20 something. Yeah. It is what it is. Super Bowl bring a lot of, it's going to be great for the city, great for the economy, great for the vendors. And we're trying to figure out how to make it great for us, basically, without.
And for all of you, because we want to be around for those who's never been to a Super Bowl. And I've never been in a city where there's a Super Bowl because I'm from Canada. I have experienced an All-Star weekend in Toronto, which was freezing cold, but I've never experienced a Super Bowl weekend. So we want to kind of have you experience Super Bowl weekend with us. So I think we'll talk about it. But I think in addition to going live on Thursday, we'll probably just do some pop-up lives around.
So pay attention to the feed, y'all. Again, we'll be out and about. Game day Sunday, we'll probably be doing something, figuring out where we're going to catch the game at. Personally, I don't know. we'll see.
We're trying to win some Super Bowl tickets too, which
Yeah,
we will be
I
hawking.
have to deal with this. I got to be somewhere Saturday
Yeah.
to put in my futile attempt at trying to win some Super Bowl tickets.
Which we will be selling because
That
we
would
will
be
not be
awesome.
going.
I would definitely not go.
We will
I
not
would
be going.
sell. They said the worst seats are like 5,500 right now.
And we will be selling those bad boys.
Two Super Bowl tickets would be about 10, 11K, and I'd rather have it cash. I ain't gonna front.
Facts.
I do not like. I'm a Giants fan. Philly is. Congrats. I probably think they're gonna win. In Kansas City, they're always there. They're starting to be like the Patriots a little bit.
You said they always there.
Borderline annoying. So there's that. We have the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes going up against the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts. This year is the first time two African American quarterbacks are starting on both sides.
Why do you guys not call them black? Why do Americans say African American?
Because black people get offended at everything.
Oh, it's so interesting that you don't.
I'd rather be called black than African American.
I just say black, right?
I don't have a ton of identity.
Because we're black everywhere. You're not African American everywhere. If you go to Europe, you're not African American. You're just black, right? Like I'm an African American. Like they'll just say, "Where are you from?" I'm from America. It's just an interesting. Anyways, it's just an interesting concept as a non-American that you guys say African American and just saying black.
To black people in America.
So I guess so.
Excuse me. That's why the lingo jumps around and back and forth and all of that. And again, not saying that there's nothing to be offended about to black people. Like, calm down.
So, sports, relationships. I did a nice little promo in the background here of all the different sports events. And I mean, I can't get every league because there's so many different leagues, but I think the primary ones in the United States of America specifically are NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL, PGA, and NASCAR. I may have missed a few, but
those are pretty much the big guys right there. Pickleball is on the rise.
Isn't it that thing when we went to the gym and they gave us the tour of the pickleball? We went to a gym. Yeah.
Pickleball, which is basically like badminton with wiffle ball.
You got me. I haven't played badminton in decades.
Or basically like tennis with a wiffle ball, however you want to look at it. But I still haven't even seen a pickleball yet. But like racquetball, it's a crossbreed of a few different sports. But
it sounds like people who are not very athletic play that. No disrespect. No disrespect to the unathletic, but it just seems like what is going on with you?
A lot going on. Anyway, but that's like saying, but racquetball is, those familiar with racquetball, you don't have to be super athletic to be good in that, and that's a tough sport. Like if you're good and the other person you're playing isn't, they be running all over the place. You just standing in the spot. It's interesting to see.
Okay.
Anyway, so the question, I guess the topic kind of came up off of when we were talking about potential topics, and I was just like, seriously, like if men like sports and women want men, why aren't more women into sports? And I know nobody wants a man. Nobody needs a man anymore. But
if
those that are interested, I'm just curious.
Here, let me just pause on that. This is where I call cap on all of that. I don't need a man. If that was the case, Kevin Samuels and Kendra G's show would not be as huge as it is. Kendra G and Uncle Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, would not be able to go live like 4 or 5 times a week and have so many women call in, because on Kendra G's show, who takes both men and women, Uncle Kevin used to have a men's night, but she gets more women than men looking for men. Mm-hmm. So there is no way, I'm sorry, I'm just going to call cap on that. There's no way women aren't looking for men if they're calling in and almost sometimes embarrassing themselves, quite frankly, because it's deplorable, some of their behavior and what they bring to the table, 8 kids at 28 years old and 6 kids and 4 baby daddies and all that stuff. I would not share with the public. If no, I'll do that in private, ma'am, sir. But no, anyways, I call cap because I think it's bullcrap. Okay. So we're giving advice to women who are honest about the fact that they want a man. Go on, babe.
Well, that, and we're just kind of being kind of playing into it and just talking some sports talk and how maybe to, if you don't really even have to be into sports, just understand that maybe he is and kind of feed off of that. Because let's keep it real. This time of year, the big game Sunday, even people that ain't even into football or sports tend to kind of like, I always say Super Bowl should be a holiday in America, like for legit. Like it should be.
Well, it's
You
already a
should have to go to work
Sunday.
Monday. Yeah, you should have to
Okay,
go to
all
work
right.
Monday because you should be able to. Yeah, to
If
me,
it works
it's
for
a
you, works
big
for me,
deal.
honey.
It's just a big deal. Especially in parts of the country that are more football centric, even in parts that aren't. But when you go to like your Texas and Floridas and stuff like that, like come on, Super Bowl is a massive, massive, massive thing. I've been to some crazy Super Bowl parties, and it's just it. Well, plus people don't really need a reason to turn up. Like they
Well,
always
sure. I mean, again,
looking for something.
for
So
women, even if it's just the halftime show, right? Rihanna's performing. You never know who Rihanna's gonna bring out. Like for a lot of women, it's the halftime show, right? Like they watch it
yeah, the
for the halftime show and the
commercials,
commercial, but they don't actually watch the
yeah,
game.
and it's just a lot of times a gathering event, a get together event. People are meeting up. Sometimes you're shuffling between. You'll be one place and then halftime ahead, and even though you miss halftime, you'll go scoot off somewhere else, and all of the above. So it'll be interesting. I know, like for us,
I'm not missing halftime.
well, sure. I'm
Like,
not super into. I have no idea what we're going to be doing, but we'll figure it out and we'll make sure that she's able to watch halftime.
thank you. Rihanna's
So when the
performing.
question came up, like how should what? Well, I guess maybe a good place to start is why are men into sports so much? And I know that's interesting because a lot of this younger generation is not in really with that. They're kind of more into competitive cooking and things like
And
that.
you and you and we know why that is. Let's not call that out. Why we know why that is.
Like it's but you know traditionally guys tend to be into sports because we are competitive by nature.
But sports is also rough and tumble, which I appreciate, right? I appreciate the rough and tumbleness of sports. Like I feel like you should be running around. Like I was a kid, I believed you ran around. I raised a child who was constantly running around. And even though she was a girl, she was outside, she was running around, she was doing all of that. If I had a boy, he probably would have played every sport underneath the sun because I think you run around, you're competitive. But more importantly, it teaches you certain values that sitting around doing nothing doesn't. So for me, even just forget like the competitive part, the teamwork, right? The patience. There's just certain things that sports teach you that sitting around on a smartphone all day, every day doesn't teach you. And those are the things you would want for a young man to learn, especially if he's a young man who may not be growing up in a home where there are other men, right? Because these sports are generally coached by men, right? Like, and they're hanging around. I will say generally because we live in a politically correct world. And so I'm going to use generally. So they're generally, most of the time, coached by men. They're around other men. They're around the fathers of the young men who do have fathers in their life. And so it gives them a sense of community. So even if that was the only reason a mother put her son in sports is for that sense of community and to prepare him for manhood, I think that would be enough of a reason.
Yeah. And
I think men who are into sports make better partners, personally, my opinion.
But really what sports is, if you look at from the beginning to even currently, sports is controlled violence, essentially.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a you're in an arena, you have a set of rules, you have a ball, you have gloves, you have helmets, you have equipment, whatever you have, but there is either whether it's team or individual, there's rules of engagement, there's penalties for not adhering to said rules, there's scorekeeping, all of those things. So it's kind of like makeshift war, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like the Romans had the Colosseum. It's still pretty much the same thing. Like the Olympics is an ancient concept in and of itself. It used to just be like arrows and running, but that's about all they could do. But instead of two countries going to war, they'd send their best athletes. And the athletes would compete, and the country that won, well, the set of athletes that won would represent their country.
Yeah, they were the victor.
Country would have pride and advantage over the losing country. It was much better to send, 50 athletes than 5,000 troops
to die.
And it's the same type of scenario. So I think that's really where, at least for in this world, I think it's important for everyone, because it's so funny how like violence has become so lame and uncool, but it seems to be happening more frequently everywhere you look. That's very interesting. I think they're trying to soften people up so they're easier to beat up. That's just my opinion on things. But
it's supposed to be fun and light.
To each his own, like I said, but
it's fun and light topic. How do we get to beating?
That's not heavy.
Okay, continue.
Beating people. We're talking about sports. You can't have sports.
Okay, go ahead. There's show.
Like there's a whole sport dedicated to it
called the NHL.
Professional boxing.
I'm just saying, like not even like.
And speaking of sports, one that I have come across, and I think Dana White is involved in this shit, and I'm like, it's crazy, but the slap league, like,
I'm sorry,
excuse me,
what? Like people go around slapping people?
No.
Then what are they doing?
There's like a booth. There's like a thing in the middle.
I actually have regret I asked.
Stand up, and literally, it's you brace yourself for the slap.
That's what I just said. So people slap each other, and you said no.
Well, I was trying to describe.
Oh.
Run up and slap some damn body. It's there's parameters around it, but
it's a slap.
Here's the thing about a slap too, for those that are, just it has nothing to do with toughness. If I take my hand, when I slap you across your ear, the air from the force of that blow is going down your ear channel, and that's what causes way more damage than the actual smack.
Ow.
So there's videos of people getting slapped, and like one guy is like, damn, he looked like he about to die. Like he hit the ground like, like it's pretty crazy. I don't think it's gonna be around very much longer, and it shouldn't be. Like it has nothing to do with toughness.
That sounds dangerous.
And again, after 2 or 3 rounds, bro, face looking crazy, like he just been getting but it's a real thing. And it shows how,
that sounds barbaric anything. That is not even a sport. These are sports. What I've got going on in the background, those are sports. There's exercise, there's fun, there's so much. Like these are sports. Baseball, basketball, even NASCAR. Your adrenaline is going. Again, there's so many things that it teaches you. But taking sports back to relationship, let's bring it back.
Sure.
So your question in the beginning was,
why are women more into sports if women want men and men aren't?
That is a good question. So, and I guess I'm the wrong person to ask, because I am into sports, right? Yeah, I'm into a lot of sports. But I was into a lot of sports because I myself am competitive, right? I understood the value that sports brought to my life. So I played sports and I watched sports. Track and field actually was the biggest sport. Track and field is huge in my country, Jamaica, right? It's a big thing in my country. And so I grew up running. Like I've been running since I was 3 years old. We had like little running leagues, right? All the way up until the end of high school, I was running. So for me, I knew what sports would bring to my life. I didn't need anybody to tell me, and I wanted to be active. We also come from a generation that, again, you didn't have a phone and you didn't sit around all day doing nothing, just being on your phone 24/7. You were outside. You were running, you were playing. When I came to Canada, they had recess. I don't even know if they have recess anymore, but recess was the time between classes that you would spend time, and everybody put on their jackets in the winter, and the summer you just ran outside and you played around and you had fun and you did little sports, and they had little small basketball things. So you were always constantly doing things. I actually don't even know if they still have that today. I know when my daughter's 21, I knew that they had recess then. I don't know if they still have recess, but you were encouraged to be outside. And being part of a team sport actually even gave you more advantage at school. There was a certain type of rep that you had when you were part of the basketball team or the volleyball team or the baseball team or the track team, and there was awards you could win, and I knew what that meant. So for me, that was amazing. And funny enough, the guys who did sports also used to date the girls who were also on a sports team because they understood the appreciation. She understood having to practice and the dedication that it took. So that's what I found in my high school, right? Like, because unlike, I mean, you're giving your face, but I didn't grow up in where the girls were basically butch girls playing basketball. The girls when I was playing basketball were very feminine, beautiful girls who just happened to also like sports. It wasn't this way that people think that it was a bunch of butch women who were running around liking sports. No, the women look like me or better where I grew up in Toronto that were playing baseball and basketball and all of those things. So the guys who played sports, who were the captains of their teams, they generally also dated a girl who was on the sports team because she understood him very differently than just a regular girl who didn't understand his dedication to that sport. My experience.
I'll go for that. Yeah. Like not my experience, but
so tell me your experience.
Well, again, here it's different, especially the higher the level you go. That's just not really the case.
In terms of how the girls look, or the girls playing sports?
No, the girls playing sports, how the girls look, understanding your situation, like all of the above. Like of course there's synergy, there's commonality to that, but it's not like dudes is out like I gotta find me a female ball player, like
No, I don't think. I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying it was an attraction.
Yes, and that's why I said I'll go with that. That just wasn't necessarily my experience, but I was thinking, especially around high school, though, I would say that's pretty safe to say, in general. But guys gonna go where the action is. Like that's pretty much kind of how it goes, whatever that is. And a lot of times, female athletes again are more focused and more worried about athletic performance
than getting dick
and stuff like that.
Simple.
However you want to
no, it was the fact they were not worried about getting penis. They were.
But then there were plenty that were. So it's like it's a mixed bag. But I'm talking about your general population. Or I understand maybe not being into it, but I don't really understand being like averse to it or having a problem with men that are into whether it's spectating or participating into sports. I guess I don't understand where some of that.
As a former athlete, did you experience that? Right, I've never been that woman, so I don't know what that experience is. Have you experienced women that clearly dated you because you were tall and played basketball, but somehow would get upset because of your dedication to the sport that paid you?
Yeah, again, my experience was kind of laissez-faire when it came to my career and how my attitude was towards women at the time. So I didn't really.
But again, you've been playing sports from you were a young kid, so from a young kid all the way up to adulthood.
Yeah, that's not something that I've seen it, I've sensed it, but it's nothing I would experience personally. Because as soon as I got a whiff of that, what would I be doing in that situation? But
hold on. So let's just pause, because again, you are essentially the type of men that women would want to get, right? A man who dedicated himself to a sport and was paid to play that sport. That's what makes you a professional athlete. Someone paid you lots of money to go and play a sport. So you're saying the moment you sense that a woman wasn't into what you were doing, that spelled the end for you? I just want to understand. So, because we're talking to the ladies here.
What I was into, but just acted, it was like I already know who you are. I already know what you're about. That type of energy, like all y'all the same, all ball players the same. Like
Okay, so
that
pause.
kind of energy.
Pause, because I'm not even understanding. So just let me get it. So a woman who came to you with the attitude of
Well, why would
just
she come
because
to
of
me? Like, I'm just saying, like, say if I approach someone and they be like, "Oh, I don't deal with ball players. All of y'all are the same." Like that's, I'm not gonna try to
well,
convince
of
you
course not. That's
otherwise. You know what I mean?
ridiculous.
And I do think that there's a segment of society that views it as that, and let's be
In
real.
today's society, no. When if you were 22 years old today, trust me, I don't think that would happen as much as 24, 23 years ago. These women these days are not saying, "Oh, you're a ball player. I'm not trying to date you."
Yeah, well, I hope some would, but that's all relative. I think that yeah, we were in an interesting place where so much has changed so fast, but then certain things are still kind of basically the same. There's only so many ways you can split a hair. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's an interesting place that we're in when, from my perspective, I think it's so many women that treat the marketplace like it's the guy's job to get on my page. It's his job to kind of align himself to what I got going on. And I'm like, that's extremely interesting because in my opinion, that is a very unmanly thing to do.
To get on the women's
Right. That
program.
means you ain't really got your own thing going. Like at all. If you did, why are you worried about getting on hers?
So, so a woman meets a man that is into sports, whether he plays it professionally or recreationally, or he's just a viewer. He happens to enjoy sports. He may have grown up playing sports, but doesn't play it now as an adult. What is your advice to her? Because again, I can't give the women advice because I love sports. Like I'm in a fantasy league. Like I'm the only female in my basketball fantasy league. Right? So that tells you how much I like sports. So, I mean, hey, ladies, liking sports got me him. There's my advice. That's all I got.
That's a good point. It's not just liking sports. It's
I
not as
mean,
simple as
there's
that.
other things,
But again,
but
it's something that seems really silly to try to swim upstream about. But as I was saying previously, I think in most women today's mind, it's not about I don't have to do anything to get him. Like he's supposed to be trying to get me, and I'm like most of the guys that I know that experience, that type of attitude will keep you single because he's not even thinking of like, well, what in the world? Like,
okay, so back to my question. We've established that a man ain't gonna get on your program. So a woman meets a man who's into sports. What's your advice to her?
get and do some research. At least get some basic understanding of the rules. Call your dad. Call your brother. Call your uncle. I would hope there's some guy
Some man in
that
your
you
life.
can ask. Hey, such and such is really into football. Can you give me a crash course? Who's the good teams? Who are the significant players? And it's just, if worst case scenario, you will gain significant cool points with that guy. Like I can definitely say that because most men have almost an ideology that you don't know what you're talking about. You're just faking it when it comes to actual interest or knowledge of sports because
So
kind of how it is.
so let me pause you there. So because I've had those experiences, right, where people really, I'm a huge basketball fan. And I've had those spirit experiences where men are like, yeah, you can't be really, and then they start recognizing I know the rules to the game. I know what I'm talking about. I've actually been invited to start a podcast with a former ball player friend of mine to talk about sports from a woman's perspective. So that's off-putting though for me as a woman, right? So there'll be women who say, what's the point of me getting into sport if I now have to convince a man that I actually like the sport and he's going to just brush me off and be misogynistic? Because, that's the favorite word. Now, instead of just, first of all, ladies, let me just also say, The word is not misogynistic that many of you are trying to use. It's sexist. It's very different. Misogyny is the hatred of women. Sexism is just believing that certain sexes are superior in other parts. It's sexist, not misogynist. But I digress. So what is the point of that? For a lot of women, like, okay, so I'm going to be into the sports. Now I have to prove to you that I'm into sports because you're sexist and don't think women can be into sports. So what's the point of wasting my time?
Because sports are dope. And again, if it's not that man, it could be the next man or the next man or the next man. And it's not about proving to him anything. It's just about time will reveal if you actually know what the hell you're talking about or not. As if it was anything. You can say you a wine connoisseur, but if you keep bringing him crappy bottles, he's going to be like, I call cap on that because
you're not bringing me the
wine. It's
Cabaret from this whatever. Not a Cabaret from Circle K. Would you suggest, because here was the thing, I always say that, I mean, we clearly met online, but I do not think online is a place that people should be meeting, right? The world is opened up. I think it is a great way. Women need to be outside, men need to be outside meeting people. Do you think a sports bar is a place to meet people, considering sports bars are a place that people go to watch sports? So if a woman is trying to find a man, and a lot of men like sports, would a sports bar be a place, or should you just avoid it because now she's infringing on his space?
No, I mean, women's been going to sports bars,
and women who like sports have been going to sports bars.
Women that and primarily, but a lot of sports bars would have events that that turn into nightclubs at night. So all that's been going on, but a hardcore sports bar, like at the height of a major event, like during the World Series or something like that, I would say you've got a much better chance of catching a traditional type of guy at a sports bar than you do at a sip and paint.
You just said that word, so. Do women, ladies, do you actually even want traditional men anymore? Because that's the part that even confuses me. I want a man's man, and a man's man likes sports.
Not all. In general, women do, but they also, like, let's be real, wanting it to be hot and cold is very much like a woman. With that being said, I think a lot of women, they want an emotional gangster who would shoot people for disrespecting him, but also is not afraid to show his emotions and cry in front of her.
And pays all the bills. And opens her doors.
And doesn't mind if she goes out with the girls on Friday and Saturday night because girls' time is important.
Who are these women you're describing?
I'm telling you, I watch Kendra G. I'll be listening to you. I'm listening to Kendra G sometimes, and I'm like, that's what half of what you're talking about. This, like, who is this confused, conflicted poor man?
I think you're trying to
have time for all of these freaking opposites? These opposite engagements and interests and stuff like that. But yeah, in general, women do want a traditional man. And like, okay, what's the best way to put it? It's like, yes, that new age, emotionally intelligent guy is great until you have to go 400 yards down a dark alley. And then you don't feel as, then you're hoping for more of a guy that, like, I feel like if some dudes jumped out and just tried to do harm to us, he's not just going to fold up like a chair and allow them to do whatever and maybe even push you off in front of him while he run back the other way or something like that. Like, it doesn't go together. You know what I mean? You can't expect men to be women. And I know that's really confusing in today because you can be whatever you want to be.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, we're not even going to go there. Let's
not. I understand, but you can be whatever you want to be. So I get that that's very confusing.
God forgive me for calling your name in vain.
But I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes from. Like, look here, if we hear like, oh, it sounds like someone's trying to get in the front door, and I hand her the bat.
Absolutely not.
It's
Well, their relationship is over.
gender equality. What are you
I
talking
don't do
about?
gender equality. We have gender roles in this
Gender
relationship.
equality.
I
What are
don't
you
do
talking about?
gender equality. Our relationship is over.
You go check this.
I don't need equal rights.
You know what I mean?
Like, I'm good. That sounds
Crazy
terrible
from that
for that relationship.
You know,
It's the
y'all
worst
riding in the
relationship ever.
car and the tire goes flat, and he's like, "Y'all,
Your turn.
While he's sitting in the car, and you out there trying to break lug nuts to get the tire off. Like,
So this emotionally intelligent, sensitive, pays all the bills guy, all of it again sounds good in theory until that's who you get. And do you want the brute force guys back here who were enjoying sports and playing sports, and you were too busy telling them that they were wasting all their time? You know what's so funny about that? Here's the thing that's so funny about women who complain about their men liking sports. I always know where you are.
well, I'm pretty. Most guys are very kind of simple.
No, but no, let's pause for a second. So you've got NFL season. So, Sundays, for ladies who don't know, Sundays, Thursdays, Mondays. Those are NFL game days, Sundays being the most popular one, right?
Mhm.
It is 18 weeks now, 18
Mhm.
weeks, playoffs, and then Super Bowl. And so for at least, I'll say 22 weeks, right? He's occupied with that. He's going to be home. He's going to be watching his games. All he asks for is some peace and quiet. Maybe make him some nachos or his favorite meal. Give him his beer. He'll invite a few friends over. Good times. If he also happens to be a man who likes the NBA league starts about a month and a half after NFL starts. And that goes about 3 months, 4 months, depending on if his team is in the playoff, but the entire season goes another 4 months past when the Super Bowl is. And then generally after the Super Bowl, you have All-Star Weekend. Then if he's an MLB man, which is baseball, that season goes into October, which is right when, again, football is starting. So again, a man who likes sports tends to end up being very predictable. He's a predictable man. The sports, he's got his favorite teams. He wants to watch his game. He's going to be home. He's not out in these streets. That has actually been my experience. That has been my experience because it's Sunday football, babe. Nachos, whatever. I'm home. It's the 1 o'clock game if you're on the East Coast. 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very much like that.
Mm-hmm. I won't argue that point. Yeah, it's if he's is out, it's a sports bar or at a friend's house, or it tends to be something similar to that. But like, I think that's just part of the maturation. It has nothing to do with sports, but that's just kind of the maturation process of men in general. Is they become more stable, more predictable, more boring, for lack of a better word, as they get older. Just because, I mean, what are you chasing after when you're 40 something? Like,
I mean,
but I mean, again, there's a lot of guys that are doing exactly that, but it just leaves. I get then you have the rest wondering like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just trying to go sit down at that Zips or something like that and have some wings and some fries and maybe a beer or two. And it's just kind of basic. That becomes a good becomes a good night out, instead of like turning up 50 shots and dealing with all the chicks.
But you just made a good point. You made a good point, because I am also into sports as well. So even if I don't I don't understand all the rules of football, as you know. I know most of the rules of basketball, because that's basketball, track, and baseball are sports that I grew up on. So but I ask enough questions and I understand enough. I can watch a football game and understand the downs, and if I need a question, I'll ask you. But we end up spending a lot more time together because I'm not trying to be like, damn, like, oh, we gotta go to the casino and watch the game again, or oh, you want to put on the game. I'm just like, babe, you want to cast the game? Like, let's put on the game. So even for our relationship, me liking sports gives us more quality time together.
It's just another thing to have in common, because yeah, it's just another thing to comment, and it's a thing that again, whether you're actually into it or you're just putting on, it shows effort. Because dudes, he has to go shopping with you, gonna well, he hates that, but
Ooh, that's a good point.
Just
that's a good
to
point.
appease you, so you can ask him 50,000 times about
if you look
outfits
fat
that he don't care about, or which one looks better, and he has no idea, or all of the above. And at best case, he might actually start to develop an eye or have some, it's the same principle. Is after time, he might be, I would imagine he'd be a little better at shopping with you, and I hate to box it into like something so general, so stereotypically women, is shopping. But I also think that, and this just kind of flashed into my head real quick. And I think is, what else? Another thing that has spoiled a lot of women, as far as their perspective on men.
What?
They gay friends.
Oh.
They gay friends.
Because they'll do all of the things that their men won't do with them.
Well, not even that, but they also, you can't even talk, like you're talking, and it's like he's in the same boat as you. He want a man too, right?
Yeah, well, and he's a man doing all of the things your own man won't do with you.
Yeah, that, and also, I don't think that he's really privy to the man that you want. Y'all both want the same dude, essentially. You know what I mean? Like,
how did we get here? Like, I'm trying to keep it on track, and you are
and this is
like you are going. You literally always go. I'm literally trying to get. Yes, the reason it's been spoiled is because you are going out with a man in a male form who still likes the female things. And so you get into a relationship with a man, a heterosexual man, expecting that heterosexual man to do what their gay best friend is doing. Is that where you're going?
Be in, or just to operate anywhere in that playing field is kind of off. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not your gay bestie. Like,
but again, that's also putting men in a category, because I know plenty of gay men who also like sports, because a man is a man is a man, right? Like a man is still a man, right? They got testosterone. Oh, Jesus. I'm just trying to keep us on track, and you, of course, are going to go off the rails.
But I just was pointing out that I'm like, okay. But no, it's along the lines of doing something that isn't about you for the other person. You could just put it up under that umbrella. And I think whether it's men or women, or regardless of sexual identity, that's a good idea if you want to have a better relationship or you want to attract a better mate across the board.
Now we're requiring people to be selfless in a world that promotes selfishness.
Imagine that being a little selfless makes you more attractive and attract better people. Like, that's, but yeah, everyone is, the mantra of today is, it's all about you. It's all about your identity, and it's all about you trying to align what's going on. We're actually almost the opposite. You're trying to align the world into what's going on inside your head, and that just seems to be very, very exhausting.
So let me ask you this. Again, if someone who grew up on sports, playing, watching, and again, played professionally, what's the greatest lesson or lessons playing sports taught you?
How to lose. Everyone thinks, oh, no. There's something called sportsmanship. It's something called not melting down when you don't get the outcome that you want. It's something about being gracious in defeat. Like, it doesn't, and again, I'm not a person that enjoys losing, nor have I ever really been on a bunch of losing teams, like whether it was high school, college, or professionally. I tended to win more games than I lost. But at the same time, there comes something that it's just a part of life. You win some, you lose some. But I think nowadays, especially when the perception of life has been so catered that, you know, you go on social media, there's nothing but wins.
No, everybody's winning.
Maybe
Everybody's
there's
a boss.
fail or two, but that's
No,
what comedy
everybody's a
purpose
boss.
is, but
And
everybody's winning on social media. So who can, you know, how are we really teaching, you know, or learning how to handle the trials and tribulations of life when you expect every day to be sunny and clear and lack resistance? And that's just not how life is going to treat you. Like, life is going to kick your ass frequently.
And you may not be able to answer this question because you don't know where life would have led you. But do you think that you would have so easily learned that lesson had you not participated in sports? Like actually participated in sport?
Nah, and I think that goes outside. Like, again, we're talking different eras, but that goes outside of even talking about being on a team or not. Like, in the neighborhood I grew up in, sports was just a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't even nothing that was like really optional or discussed. Like, if you wanted to be outside, everybody was at the ball court, or, you know, like, and I'm talking about young. As you start getting older, people start knowing the other ways and having different interests and all of that stuff. But I'm talking like, you know, elementary school eras, like that was everything was sports. That was the only way for you to get any energy out, you know, to burn off any energy or whatever you had going on. You know what I'm saying? Was running, jumping, being outside playing. And like as I said, is, you know, you start getting older, those interests start varying, and guys start veering off and all these other things and stuff like that. But so the handling a loss part of it is, you know, kind of early. So is the thing that, like, and I think that's another thing men do really well with amongst each other is, like, it's levels to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, most men ain't got no problem saying that guy's a better ball player than me. Well, no, let me say back, because basketball is very different. That's the one that I don't think I've really ever met a guy that said he couldn't play ball.
I have.
But
people don't say that to you because they want to impress you. But I've met a lot of men who say I can't play no ball.
Yeah, that's interesting. Football, tennis, all that. You be like, nah, basketball, they be ready to. Well, I used to be, you know, like even Stephen A. was giving this tale of how he hit 17 straight.
Oh, Jesus Lord. He just likes to hear himself speak. Yeah. Shout out Stephen A. Smith. Let me ask you, do you think that humility is also something that that it taught you? Or
well, if you were taught properly, you learned humility. Like, again, I've seen some stuff these days where the little kids is really stunting on a team that they're beating, and you go into the comments and it's like, let them have their fun, and
by a bunch of women saying that.
Of course.
But we're talking about men here. We're not talking about women and our foolishness. That's stupid.
Sports, because there's still respect. Even in trash talk, there's still respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like, if you keeping it about ball, you can say all kind of outlandish stuff. The minute you say something about dude wife, he coming after you all. It's because you done changed. You started operating out of bounds. You ain't talking about stuff within the rules of engagement. So the rules kind of go out of the door, you know. Like playing basketball, I've even been into a situation a few times where, you know, you playing ball and you're just trying to exercise, but some guys, I get they feel like they're gonna be the park enforcer that day, and, you know, you ain't gonna dunk on me. And I'm like, well, but you're not gonna keep assaulting me either, bro. Like, something, like, I'm giving you, I'm letting you know now, like, next time I go in for a layup and you hit me like that, I'm gonna hit you back. So
men also clearly take out aggression when they're playing sports, which
is controlled violence. Back to the whole point. It's controlled violence. And if you don't want to, like, and again, that's kind of unspoken amongst men on the playing field. If you don't want to participate in controlled violence, then we can step off into the street and participate in uncontrolled violence. But that's not healthy for society.
Well, a man are blowing off steam. So when a guy's upset and he's like, yo, I'm just going to play some ball, ladies, leave that man alone. And he's usually going to go play ball. Like, I know a lot of women these days, oh, he says he's going to go play ball and he's going to go be with some other women. And it's just all of these different things, right? Like, men need an outlet. And I've always found that I've always been appreciative of being with a man who had an outlet, an actual proper outlet, not smoking, drinking outlets, but an outlet. Whether he was on a basketball league, he would go to the gym and work out and then play basketball. He played football. Like, those men in my life have always been the most stable. They had an outlet. They had a place to go. The control violence, as you said, which I never even thought about it that way, but that's true. It's a way to let go of aggression. It's hard enough to be a man. Then you add being a black man. Then you add being a black man with any level of success. And there are all of these things that come with it. And so you need an outlet. And I would rather my man take it to the gym, to the ball court, to the football field, to go play soccer, cricket, all of these different things than the other avenues that they could take. So I'm actually the opposite. I would not date a guy who was not into sports.
Well,
It was a question for me.
Well, I've said that to my daughter. Like, I don't really trust guys that ain't into sports. It's just
like, no disrespect,
weird.
But no.
I'm not being funny style. I'm not being shady. I'm just, in my experience, a guy that don't like no sports. You don't watch no sports. Ain't got no favorite team. Think sports are for cavemen. I'm just kind of like, you're weird, bro. Like, I don't know where you must have came from, some like Tibetan monastery or something like that, but I can't relate to that.
But when it comes to your daughter, so you're saying to your daughter, like, what is it that she's gonna get out of a man as she starts dating that you would feel that is good qualities for her to get out of that as a young woman?
I'm thinking as deep into that as you did. It just really stems from the fact that it's just something about it. Like, I would say, like, again, like Patrice O'Neal made a joke about it once, as far as if he doesn't like football, like, that's just weird. Like, I'm not saying you got to be the greatest fan or you got to be a diehard, but you can't sit down and watch a game. Like, that's just kind of weird to me.
Okay, so I do think about things, and I think about things deeply. I mean, I have a child that's older than your child, so I know that for me it was about character. I've always found that, this is why I asked you about lessons that you've learned. I've always found that the men that I dated that were into sports or played sports professionally or otherwise, there was a certain character that they had. There was a certain discipline. I'm very disciplined. Rob will tell you, like, I am disciplined. I have a to-do list. There's things that need to go a certain way. I go to the gym 7 days a week. Like, there's discipline that I had. And I always knew that the men that played, specifically, more than the men that just watched, but the men that played sports, they shared my discipline and they respected my level of discipline. And to me, a disciplined man is a man who can lead me anywhere. And so I also recommend to my daughter a man who enjoys sports. My daughter happened to have played sports. People may not think of dance as a sport, but she's a dancer. She's a professional dancer. Won many competitions and so forth because of that. But there's a certain level of discipline that my daughter has because of it in every aspect, academically and professionally. She's been disciplined. And so for her to be with a man who's undisciplined, I wouldn't like that. And again, it might be a generalization to a lot of people, but again, I have dated men who again played, or it's more than anything, it's usually guys that played more than just watch. But even the guys that watch, there's a certain level of discipline and so forth that they have because they've learned certain character traits out of playing sports. And again, I also put my daughter into sports because it built her character as a young woman, but I think is fundamentally important. So that's always been the thing for sports for me. Like, I respect the character it's built out of a man. So a man liking tiddlywinks or a man who says the sports are not great, or I remember dating one guy and the conversation was I won't say weird, it was an awkward conversation. He was an awkward guy.
As I said, it's kind of weird.
It was well, I'm gonna call it awkward. You're gonna say weird. It was for me. It was this awkward conversation of, and I was like, you're an awkward person, and is it because you don't like sports? Maybe it's a reach, but I'm gonna go with it. Like I didn't like his character.
And I rock with you on the discipline aspect, definitely. And the character about halfway there, because Aaron Hernandez played football too, right? Like there's a laundry list of terrible character guys in the athletic world as well.
I think he made bad choices.
Shade at like at your point, or no,
I think he made bad choices. I don't know if he was a terrible. His character
to exemplify certain things on the field does not mean that you can exemplify the same things off of it. That's just what it is. Some guys develop the ability to walk in both worlds. Some guys tend to only be good in one.
But now we're actually arguing nature and nurture, right?
No, we're not arguing. I was just calling out a counterpoint of sports should definitely build character, but you are who you are before you picked up the ball too. It just like in many situations, it's just going to bring out more of who you are. And when you add into the better you get at sports, the more funneled it becomes and the more entitlement you can achieve. It gets a little crazy when you start getting at the top as far as how outlandish the behavior can get sometimes.
Elaborate.
Aaron Hernandez. Like I'm not you, but you think his stuff didn't start in New England with that murder that he wound up in jail?
No, I've watched all of this stuff when he was in like high school and college. Yes,
and nobody ever took him
I
to
get that, but that okay. Can we get off Aaron Hernandez?
No, but I'm just saying that's the same principle. Is again, the more in many instances, there's the higher you matriculate, the better you become. There's the more people that are willing to allow you to have a sense of.
So you're giving a woman every reason not to date a man who I thought the whole point of this show was to tell women to enjoy sports so they can. But you're giving women every reason not to date a man who's into sports.
I'm talking about how is that the same? I'm not to date. Look, first off, when we get to the top, we're not talking about every man. We're talking about professionals and the best of the best. So that's not the same. And then second off, like when you start getting towards professional athletes and guys at the top of their craft and things like that, I would say you're probably everything that glitters isn't gold. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I would say in my experience, and I'll speak from my experience, whether the man played and still played, or he just happened to be the CEO of his company or an executive or a high-powered lawyer or whomever I came up on, they played sports. That was always something. And you ask them, it was like, you know what? I grew up playing sports. I understood discipline. My mentor, I was speaking to my mentor today, high-powered lawyer, was just recently in the government. He had a very high position. This is, I think, his second time. Was drafted by the Cardinals, right? Like he played sports his entire life, and he would credit a lot of where he is in his life to sports because it built a certain character. So I think again, when it comes, I'm just always going to be a believer, if I'm giving advice to women, is that is something to look for. Again, speaking as a woman who's dated men who've played sports, watched sports, been involved in sports from some aspect, whether they played professionally or they just went through high school or university and played, it gave them the determination and the drive and the foundation to then go ahead and be successful in other aspects of their life. And so for me, that's what I wanted to talk about when we talked about this topic, is that's what's important. If you're looking for, a lot of these women coming on and say that they're looking for good men, I think that's a foundation to start. And then if you find a man who enjoys that, then enjoy it with him. because it again, it keeps them home. It gives you quality time together. It does all of those things where women say, again, when they come online and they say they're looking for that man, that's my 2 cents on that.
I don't disagree with that.
Anything else you want to add?
Not really. Yeah, like I said, this was kind of, like I said, trying to keep it a lighthearted show. Probably gonna be a short show. Super Bowl is coming in next week. We're gonna be popping up on your feed a bit more once we establish what events we'll be attending. I do think we're gonna. It might be crazy, but if we go down to the stadium for tailgate on Super Bowl Sunday, I don't know. We might.
I've never been to a tailgate, so
10
that would
miles
be fascinating for
away
me.
from
Oh, we're gonna have to
the
park
stadium
far.
or something like. Yeah, I just don't know what to expect with all that. Nor would I want to be caught up in the traffic of both going or leaving from. So we might look at some alternative routes, like maybe drive halfway and catch an Uber the rest of the way.
You know, I don't mind walking. I do.
Like
I
that.
do
So
long
yeah,
walks.
we're gonna
so.
try to figure. Well, getting out on the west side, them blocks long.
I don't want to do
You
the
ain't
long
gonna
blocks.
walk over there, boy. That one block be about 4 city, like New York City blocks. Yeah, like I said, we're just trying to figure it out, keep it fun.
Yeah, so Friday, Saturday, so Thursday,
So
Friday,
yeah.
Saturday, Sunday. Watch out for our lives. Again, it is Super Bowl weekend in Phoenix.
Maybe even pop up on Wednesday, but yeah, I don't think there's a ton going
No,
on
you
early
can't pop
in
up
the
on
week.
Wednesday.
Oh no, we can't.
No.
We have another engagement. My bad. So yeah, we'll be here next Thursday.
We might be outside next Thursday.
Yeah,
we talked about we're probably going to be outside.
Location. We're going to try to mix it up a bit next week and give you a bit more snippets, give you stuff outside of our little walls and our chosen topics and our viewpoints. And hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, we're preparing to move into our next season of the show. We're going into our 4th season, actually, which is kind of interesting of itself. You know, we've been doing this a little bit over a year now.
Proud of us.
To do it. Very proud of it because again, it's stick-to-itiveness. Overnight success takes 10 years. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we live in a society of I want everything right now and I want it immediately.
Correct.
Life just doesn't work like that. Life is a slow burn, not a hot spark.
I agree with you. Instant gratification ain't really true gratification.
No. You know, fast money comes with slow problems. I learned that as a teenager.
So repeat that. Fast money
come with slow problems.
Come with slow problems. I like that one, baby. I've never heard that one. Yeah. Good for you. That was good. Okay, we're gonna do a couple of questions. I don't have the question bowl because once again, I don't have it because there's nothing in there. But I'm gonna take some.
Out in the street asking people questions.
So I'm actually gonna take some from. Oh shoot, maybe that's what I'll do. I'm gonna order some of these question cards that we can ask people on the street. I might order some of those from Amazon. I need your card. So we can ask people. But anyways, so this is gonna come from tonight's conversation. We're gonna ask a couple questions. So the first one I'm going to ask you, true or false? Men have unreasonable expectation about women's body counts.
What do you consider unreasonable is the start of it. Because what's funny is we've gotten to a place where really I think men might actually value what's between y'all legs more than y'all do. And that's very interesting from the perspective of when the body count gets too high. What that means is just like, if a man likes you, but he's in a position where he's like, but you bone Brad and Chad and Tyrone and Frank, and I can't really reconcile that because either something's wrong. My perception of you is wrong, or your perception of yourself is wrong. You know what I mean? One of the two doesn't seem to be lining up, because how I view you, you wouldn't have to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? You would I don't know. So
Mm.
that body count question is a very interesting, and y'all be like, men have unrealistic expectations sometimes, but it's like, I guess that comes from a place of where you think that you having a lot of sex is the same as me having a lot of sex. And it's not. It just isn't. You're dynamite fishing, and I'm fishing with a hook and a freaking thread and no rod.
Let me ask a follow-up question. This is my own follow-up question. Do you think body count would be an issue if a lot of women weren't coming with all these babies from different men? And I'm gonna finish. The only person that people can say that I've actually had sex with is my daughter's father. He's the only man who can truly, with conviction, say, I have had sex with Toshiba because we have evidence, we actually have a child. So when you've got women who've got all of these different babies, and so you know she's been with at least 4 different men because she's chosen to have babies with 4 different men. So now you start thinking, who are all the other men she had that she did not have babies with? Did it matter? So a woman with a high body count, right? But maybe no children or 1 child, you may not have the same questions of a woman who you meet and she's saying she got 8 kids, 4 kids. Well, she got multiple baby fathers. Is that when it really comes into question? Because you're not thinking about Chad and Tyrone with, again, unless she's the neighborhood girl.
You're thinking about that. That's the thing. But the neighborhood girl isn't just restricted to the neighborhood anymore.
No, it's online.
You know what I'm saying? If you're, she's big into social media, so now you again, and because men are smart, we understand how y'all think. Every time y'all have an argument, now it's 30 dudes that you can backtrack to.
Yeah, they're in our
but
DMs.
You're gonna build a relationship with me, but you couldn't do it with the 30 guys before you. Is that, and that's where I think it really comes from, is like, with men, a high body count, let's be real, it's a mark of success. You got her to give you them draws. With women, a high body count is a mark of failure. Like, let's be real. Because if number 3 would have wiped you up, you would have had a body count of 3.
Oh.
But then 10, then 15, then 20. Like, when you start getting 30, like, it's beyond just casual at that point. It's like, because again, no woman sleeps with a man that she doesn't want to keep her. Y'all bullshitting with that. So it's just, the guy might be out of your league, so you say, oh, it's just casual, I'm gonna just sleep with him, we both gonna get our rocks off. But look here, if he turned around and said, look, I just wanted to be me and you, baby, the rest of the world don't matter, you shutting it down like that?
I shut it down like that with you, babe.
So that's that's the ugly truth of it. Is like, your body count is a failure. It's a mark of failure.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. So this is a question for myself. True or false? Men are not intimidated by successful women. It's more about the attitude that comes with it.
Absolutely.
That was question for me.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were just asking me questions.
Okay. So I would say absolutely. I have never met a man who was intimidated by any of the things I was doing in my career, including the men I sit beside, right? I have found men who were supportive, but I've never had a man who was like, you're doing too much. I've actually had men who said that I inspired them to do more, right? And they realized, well, she's doing quite a bit, but I've never met a man who was like, what you're doing is too much. But if I came in on I'm a big boss and I don't need nobody and I'm independent and yes, I would expect that would be
it's not
a turn off.
It's not intimidating. Men are never intimidated.
It's a turn off.
Men are never intimidated by women because the average woman can't beat a man up. Intimidation is reserved for Mike Tyson.
Facts.
Mike Tyson intimidates other men. He's intimidating.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, but
I
you
don't wanna-
making six figures
men
isn't.
walk on eggshells with women. That's what I think they conflate the two with.
Mm.
He tippy toes around you because it's not worth his interest to even upset you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes guys can enable a woman to the point where they got a real live monster on their hands after 10 years. That's when you get, oh, I can't, you're gonna upset my wife. And he's legitimately worried and nervous about, the situation and stuff like that. And that's like, man, and I don't think that's a position that men ever want to be in. Like that ain't cool for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be intimidated of me, not the other way around.
Yeah, I would. It would be weird if you were intimidated by me.
It doesn't make sense. So like that, no, he tippy toes or walks on eggshells or whatever. But intimidation is like has a fear of being harmed by you. Like,
Yeah,
girl, bye.
Your success is not harmful to
It's
men.
not harmful to him. It's not threatening to him. He take it or leave it.
Facts. Okay, so question for you now.
Okay.
How do you know when it's time to leave a relationship?
I think when you begin running it through your mind too frequently. Like I said, for you, should I stay, should I go is an everyday thing. Most men accept
It's not every day.
Whatever. Most men accept that from their woman. That's like you're look, hypergamy is real. As long as you feel like you can't do no better, you're happy. The minute you start feeling like you can, it becomes a problem.
So our sponsor is on, and she says Rob's analogies and comparisons are interesting and sometimes hilarious. More interesting.
See the world the way that I see it. It is what it is. But yeah, did I answer the question?
Yeah, if you feel that that's the answer, then we go with it. Let me just find one last question for myself. Interesting. This actually I'm going to ask you. Is it valid to choose younger women because they're more impressionable?
Oh, I think I seen a clip where that was causing quite a
yes, and it's this clip. This is the clip that you saw. Yeah.
I don't think that women get why men are like that. It's kind of like stability in the workplace, like the more jobs you've had, the more I have to hear about how they did it at your old job. You feel what I'm saying? So when you translate that to men don't want to hear about, because again, I don't get to express all of the ways that you're like my old girlfriends or my old women or my old side pieces or my old hookups or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's not something that's viewed favorably with men. But women, whether they speak on it or not, there's always the issues of the past, and it's like a hodgepodge of, and again, it's different from woman to woman. And the better a woman is in a relationship, it's because the less of her past she brings into it.
Okay, so here is where I'm going to negate that point. I don't think it has anything to do with age. I think it has to do with experience.
Yes.
If there is nowadays some
less experience.
Nowadays there's a bunch of 22-year-olds with more body count and more experience than me and my 43-year-old ass. So
True.
If it is that you're talking about they're bringing in past trauma, being pounded down by a bunch of men, that's trauma, right? So you can meet 40-year-old women who've been in 3 long-term relationships. They were 8 years with one guy because they got married, maybe 5 years with another guy because they were engaged to another, 7 years with that guy. So they've had 3 relationships in 20 years. I think I just magically did that 20 number. And so they're going to come in and have less of that trauma than a 20-something-year-old, 25-year-old girl who's been sexually liberated and is being told that your liberation and go get your hot girl summer, because that's what young girls are being told right now. So I'm going to disagree. If my 21-year-old had a bunch of bodies behind her and a 35 or 40-year-old woman had known and understood long-term relationship, then it would be the 21-year-old who's coming in with all of her crap. So this idea, because to me, and Sorlin Sage said it, it's a groomer mentality. If you think that a younger woman is going to be more impressionable, and impressionable means controllable. That's what it means.
Oh, yeah, that's where it gets hilarious.
How does it get hilarious? Because that's what impressionable
groomer
is.
Mentality, impressionable. Isn't a leader supposed to impression on the people he leads?
Yes.
So how's that derogatory?
But how is it have to do with age? What does it have to do with age?
It
so
doesn't, but as a rule of thumb, I would say like that Matthew did is valid. But again, let's be real. Most guys ain't really trying to trip like and get that heavily invested into it. But in general, younger women are less experienced. Is that an accurate statement? I would think so. Now, are there young women that are hella versed and hella experienced? Absolutely. But why I think it's really so bothersome is just the way that the situation is set up. You know what I mean? Is my currency is success. That is something that increases over time. Women's currency is beauty, and unfortunately, that's something that fades over time. So it's easy to be like, "Oh, it's a groomer mentality. It's something like derogatory. And look, there is definitely men that fit the billing for that. You know what I'm saying? He's looking for someone less experienced, so she don't know no better, so that he can, be abusive towards her. But then there's also just we're men, and that's just the way that nature works.
So our sponsor is saying he's looking for someone to manipulate.
No, manipulation is women's trade.
Okay,
let's be real though. Like who in general, who is more likely to be manipulative in a relationship, the man or the woman?
I would agree that it's the woman. So maybe manipulate is not the word, but I understand where she's going. So let me ask you just a follow-up to this, and then I'm going to ask myself a last question. Your 21-year-old daughter comes and says she wants you to meet her new boyfriend, and he's 39 years old. How are you feeling about that?
Not wild about it, but again, I would more concerned about why my daughter is making those choices than I'm concerned with why he is. I know why he's doing what he's doing. That's just what it is.
So you would not be so overjoyed if your 21-year-old came home with a 39-year-old man.
It is a fact. But why is it the impression that most men are out here looking for women 25, 30 years younger than them? That's not the case either, especially with how this society is breaking out. There's literally zero commonality with that. You know what I mean? But I will never be on board with acting like there's like, okay, and this is going to really ruffle some feathers, but if the age of consent is 18, then he can date 18 and up, and that's up to her. You know what I'm saying? But if he wants to go after 18, that is his business.
But just not your 18-year-old, or you don't.
I only got so much control over that.
I completely agree. As someone who has a 21-year-old, there's only so much you can do. But I would not be
I would hope I put that efforts in way before we got to that bridge, into that road. You know what I'm saying? But it's also, it's a lot of things are good on paper, not great in practice. And I think that's where we really get into it. Am I gonna act like, Leonardo DiCaprio is some kind of degenerate person because he finds new girlfriends when they turn 25? I'm not gonna do that.
Live your best life, sir. Listen, there would be nothing I could do if my 21-year-old came home with the 39-year-old and that's who she wanted to date. I only have, like you said, so much control. It is what it is. I would be looking at him sideways as to why do you want to date my 21-year-old, and he would need to answer some questions, but there is only so much one can do. So final question, and this question is for myself. Do mothers often judge other mothers for being vulnerable about its difficulties? Speaking of myself, no. Listen, I give parenting and my motherhood like 2 stars. If I could give it negative stars, I would. And I don't give it negative stars because I have an amazing daughter. So she made like being a mother like a very good experience. But parenting and motherhood is hard. It's difficult. So if a woman was expressing her difficulty around being a parent or being a mother, I absolutely wouldn't judge her. Now, where I personally start judging you is when you have 11 children, knowing that it was hard and 11 children without daddies, and then you wanted to come and tell me how hard it was. Well, that sounds like a personal problem because you only need to do something once to realize maybe I shouldn't do it like this again. So if you've had a child and had a child out of wedlock, and then you kept having more children out of wedlock, and when you had the first child out of wedlock, you talked about how difficult it was, and you kept doing it, well, that sounds like you. But no, generally, overall, just no, being a mother is tough. Being a parent is tough.
It's a lie that's been driven too. Like, let's be real. Moving a couch by yourself is tough too.
Thank you.
2 people moving a couch is not as difficult.
Yeah, so it's I don't think we should be judged about saying how difficult it is, but I think when you keep making the same choice over and over again, for me to keep saying, babe, something's really hard, but then tomorrow I tell you I made the same choice again, you're gonna be like, well, stop making that choice. You keep telling me it's hard, right? So that's my thing. Again, I rate it, 2 stars, and I only do the 2 because of the daughter that I had. If I didn't have her, I would give it negative 100, right? Because it's a difficult job and it's the longest job you do. Being a parent doesn't stop. My father didn't stop being my father until we buried him. That's when he stopped having to be my father and worry about me and all of those things. It's a lifelong job. So for people to act like it's sunshines and rainbows and it's always good, they're on some bullshit. Like they cry in their car and in their shower at night. Just saying. So women, if you're having a difficulty being a mother, feel free to come to me. I will woo-saw with you and we will talk about how to make it better or sage their little asses out of the house. Their little demon spirits. So thank you. Like we said, next week, keep in tune with what's going on in Super Bowl weekend out here. And we're going to be in these streets. And we will be in these streets smelling and looking fabulous because of Sorrel and Sage. Our Sorrel and Sage package is on the way with Rob's beard oil, which I will make sure is rubbed into his beard. So when we're out there on these Super Bowl streets, we will have our Sorrel and Sage products. So make sure you check out our sponsor, Sorrel and Sage. Yes. Go to their Instagram at Sorrel and Sage CA or their website at shopsorrelandsage.com. I'm guaranteeing you people are going to be wanting to smell Rob, how amazing he's going to smell in his custom beard oil, and his skin is going to be looking so amazing when you say that. So thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate you. What are your final words, sir?
Well, thanks for joining us. See us next Thursday, 9:30 Eastern. Hit the like, subscribe button, hit the follow button. Welcome to Fuck Your Feelings, the show. If it's your first time, hope to see you again and enjoy the rest of your evening.
And like I say, if you bring a little fuck your feelings into your life and in your relationship, it might just make you stay together. So until next week, watch for us. We're going to be in them streets. Bye-bye.